everybody. I've been out here working on this mower deck for a while. It's been sitting out here for a few days. You can see where I treated this thing for rust, and it was really a lot of rust on the top of this thing. You can see it's just pits and craters, a couple of rust throughs, one here and one over here. Really not that bad. It looks worse than it is. It's still pretty solid. I taped everything off, painted it, and I just haven't done the underside yet. And that's kind of what I'd like to talk about right here. Now underneath here, it is not as bad as it was on the top of this particular deck. The deck, it was just holding a lot of water, a lot of grass, and it just sat outside, so it was just rusting all the way, just completely over the top of it. With this one, you can see where I scraped off some clumps around here, and I sprayed it down with, I'm losing my balance here, with this rust reformer stuff. And I've used it before, pretty effective. I sprayed it around it just to halt the rust, and then went through and got what remaining clumps were hanging around. I'm trying to get, let's see, there's still some here. And when I'm treating the bottom of it, my main focus is to keep the grass from clumping up and gathering and then starting to hold moisture, and it starts to rust. Underneath here, everybody says use undercoat, or and they always say undercoat the mowing deck, but on a mowing deck I really don't like to use this undercoating. I have some of this stuff and I use it on other projects, but when you spray this stuff underneath the deck here, it looks great, but it's kind of a rough coat, and all the grass, and especially wet grass, seems to cling to it, and that's what I'm trying to get away from, right? Now it serves its purpose, and on certain projects I'll use it. Take this trailer for example. It's totally covered in rust, and when I get to it, I got to put wheels on it. I'm going to treat it for rust, and on the inside and possibly underneath here, I might use the undercoating like that. And the reason why, inside the deck, I might, inside the trailer, I'll put the undercoating down, and sometimes I'm loading stuff up and I want it to try to grip. I don't want it just to slide right off, right? Now with regular paint or anything like that, yeah, it'll be semi-slick, but the undercoating will give it a little something to grip on. And the same thing underneath. It's not like there's going to, it's not like in a mowing deck where it's going to be, a lot of, wet grass clumped up and sticking everywhere. No, this is just going to be rolling around, right? So an undercoat would do just fine. Now this trailer was a rust bucket just like that one I was just showing you. It was just completely covered with rust, and was actually like a light blue color or something. I forget where this thing came from, but it was just a total rust bucket, and it's been sitting out here for a good year. But you can see the rust reform, all the rust treatment worked very well. With this one I did put undercoating underneath. Let me see if I can, yeah. So So I put all the undercoating there, and it did just fine. So if you treat the rust and get a good coat of paint on it, it should last. And this is just off the shelf, off the counter paint, so any touch-ups will be easy. It's not like I have to match anything. It's just the John Deere green. But so undercoating has its purposes. And I'm here in Texas. It's not like up north where there's a lot of snow and a lot of salt sprayed on the roads, stuff like that. It's just occasionally out here. So this undercoating does pretty well in this kind of climate where I don't have to, you know, snow and salty roads, stuff like that. And up north, I think a lot of guys are shying away from the undercoat because, you know, when you put a layer of it on, it looks great, but then the water and salt starts to permeate, and it gets stuck in between the undercoat and the metal, and it just starts to rust again, and you can just knock it right off. But around here it's a whole different climate, and it seems to work well. But on the mowing deck, I always treat it for rust first. I'm going to put the final coat of this stuff around where I just scraped everything off, and to scrape it I use, you know, a putty knife or this little chisel like this, and it'll get all those little clumps of it off, right? So scrape all that stuff off, treat it for the rust, and then I like to put some kind of enamel paint. I guess color doesn't matter because it's, you know, underneath here, but put a few coats of enamel paint, and you can even try some epoxy based paint. This is appliance epoxy. You can put it on thick, and it's a very hard coating, right? And why I want to do that, I wanted a good thick coat and kind of a slick surface. I don't want, I'm trying to keep the grass and everything from clumping up on spots. Now, areas like this around here and around the bolts, I mean, it's going to tend to start clumping up, and especially down here too, under this lip. Sure, grass is going to start clumping, especially if it's some wet grass. And but if you have a good coat of paint on it, you can hose it down much easier, right? So that's my recommendations on treating the underside of a deck. I wish I could have got to this one a lot sooner than it got into my hands, because you saw the top of it just cratered. I mean, it was just I have another one over here that's twice as old as that one, and it's still holding up, but you can see where everything was clinging here, and a lot of rust throughs. This piece, I think I'm going to re-weld this here and up here. I'm going to weld some pieces on there, but then underneath, and then I'll clean off the blades. They're good and thick, but they do need to be sharpened. And looks like they're starting to wear out, but they still cut. So I'm going to do the same with this. After I get through with the little welding here, then I'm going to go through, finish scraping off this stuff, and do the same thing. Put the rust treatment on it, and a few good thick coats of paint underneath, and hopefully it'll last a lot longer. And over here too, I treated these covers, and underneath I'm treating it with the Rust Restore. So that is after one quick coat using this, but as you can hear, I ran out of paint, so we'll before I finished it out, but that was after the first coat. I just scraped all the clumps off of it, treated it with rust, the rust reformer, and I ran out over here. So I'm just going to go with some more paint. I want to put at least 3 coats on this. But after that, as long as you just try to hose down the underside of the deck whenever you can and keep the clumps from forming, and that should help a lot. I mean, it'll help keep the mowing deck from rusting out as fast as it normally does. But that's it. So the next time you're servicing your mower deck, just keep this in mind. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and watch for some more videos.